Hey everybody, good morning. Mestre coming to you again from Tokyo, Japan. Coming with you and with another video about capoeira experience and reflection. Probably by now you guys are a little bit overwhelmed. We've been putting out so many new things. It's been fantastic. Our Patreon page is going. If you get a chance, take a look down below to our Patreon page. Give us some support. Also, if you like this, what we're doing here on Mestres on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe and support us here also. I was thinking about a video that I just watched, but also it was something that I've been reflecting on for the last few days. In Japan, I don't know if you guys know, but in Japan we have these giant bottles of which they sell Japanese sake, right? They're really big, like that big, right? That's big. And they're really hard and they hold like 1.7 liters of Japanese sake, right? And I've been looking at those bottles the last few days, the empty ones next to the restaurant where it's close to the academia. And I'm thinking, that kind of reminds me a lot about how a lot of capoeira people develop in capoeira. And I'm not trying to put them down, but I do want to put in perspective so you can reflect on your own personal growth in capoeira. Okay, I put a video in on my Facebook, Mestre Capoeira, and it was a video by Mestre Pulmon. I've never met him. I've said that I don't like taking credit for things that I didn't do, but he does a lot of stuff in Portuguese that I agree with, and he does some incredible conversation pieces, and he's addressing topics for the international Brazilian community teaching capoeira. And I think it's good because I do the same, but for non-Brazilians teaching in the international or learning capoeira in the international environment. So I was thinking about these bottles, right? I mean, they're really big and they're really thick. A lot of times people don't know, but I like to cut bottles. It's my craft, like my hobby. I upcycle them, I cut them, I sand them. And they're actually really difficult to cut because they're so thick and so strong. And I see a lot of people who are graduated. When I mean graduated, somebody who has finished their curso or course in their Capoeira Academia under their Mestre or Mestra. In this video and all my videos, I always say your Mestre, but I mean Mestre, Mestras, instructores. I mean everybody who teaches Capoeira. I don't believe that men or women are better at teaching, just everyone included. So I have to make that little disclaimer. So I look at these bottles and I think, I have students that are like these bottles. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but the bottles are empty. And what do I mean by this? I think without the vivencia, something I like to talk about a lot, and something I've posted a lot about, vivencia being the growing in capoeira, the non-physical movement. Let's say that strong Japanese sake bottle, that's a capoeirista. Oh no, a capoeira player. I want to be very careful because I use the word capoeirista very profoundly. I see a lot of people training capoeira for years, 15, 20 years, 25 years. Even I know people who've been training capoeira 30, 40 years, but they're like those bottles of Japanese sake. They're empty. On the outside, the packaging is strong. They play capoeira. They're really good at the roda. They can do all the movements. They can attack, defend. They can play capoeira in every versatile way you can imagine. But the inside is empty. And I don't mean empty as in shallow. I mean as in missing parts. And as I'm growing in capoeira, as I'm getting older and older in capoeira, I'm noticing this more. Maybe it's experience, maybe it's a different way of looking at things, but I'm noticing a lot of people who are growing in capoeira and they're getting strong, but they're missing so much. They come to class, they're part of the group, and this is not wrong. Each person has their own way and their own reasons for going to capoeira. I've covered that in, like, are you a client, are you a student, or are you a disciple of your mestre, right? So if you'd like to check those videos out there here on Mestre Vibes also. But this video is more about the formation and how to understand and to be aware if your bottle is empty. Not that it's bad, but it's a different way of thinking. So I think it comes down to different questions when you're doing capoeira. For example, when you do capoeira, can you answer people's questions? When you're training, when you're moving, when you're doing different things. I wrote a little bit of list here of questions that I thought would be interesting to ask. And you guys ask yourselves this. Can you explain what you do? Do you have that fundamental understanding of what you're doing? Not just because you've been doing it, because you understand how it works and what you're doing. Do you know the names of all the things in your group? Right? Do you know the names of the instruments, the different parts of the beating bow? Do you know the names of all the movements that your group uses? How does your teacher teach? What is their style of teaching? Have you really thought about it? Have you sat down and asked? Why does your teacher do the things the way they do? Why is your system of capoeira teaching that way? What are the techniques? What are the training methods? Why are these techniques and training methods being used? Once you reach a certain level, let's say graduated, I think a lot about that as a college graduate, right? Once you've graduated in capoeira, formado, formada. But once you teach, you're kind of responsible for this yourself. Did you learn all that other side? Did you learn how to teach what you're supposed to be teaching? Are you just copying and regurgitating? Are you just throwing it out there and say, do this just as other people did? Or do you know specifically why that works that way? A lot of times I've seen where people come to workshops or people come to events and they're asked to do a workshop or asked to be part of the formatura or asked, and unfortunately, it's obvious that they're not prepared to be part of that. And I don't mean to be saying that they're bad people or anything. I'm saying they're unprepared for the cordon, or they've grown a long time and got a cordon, but they don't have the inside of the bottle. They don't have the fundamentals, the roots understanding that are important as you grow in capoeira. And what happens is you'll end up going, and I've seen it even with my own students, where we go to events and they're asked to answer something, or they're asked to do something, or they're asked to teach something, and they don't know. And they give me that look like, because they know I've tried to teach them, because they know I've tried to say, hey, look, you got to do more. You've got to understand more. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying as your cordon goes higher and higher, people are going to be asking you more and more. People are going to be looking up to you. You shouldn't feel embarrassed about this. You should feel motivated to learn and to go and to reach new goals and new understanding and a more profound understanding of what you've learned and what you've dedicated your life to. I've heard people, a lot of times, something I really don't like is I've heard people invent when they don't know. All the way from old masters, all the way down to new teachers. Look, when I don't know, I say, look, I don't know, let me check. If I don't know, I ask someone. That's why being a master or being in part of the capoeira world, you've got to ask. Don't feel you don't know. If you feel you can't ask your teacher, ask someone else. But be careful, you need to work on that relationship with your teacher. This happens a lot when people don't get a cordon and they go, well, what am I missing? You guys throw that at an instructor a couple days before or after the bachizado, angrily disappointed when you should have been asking all the year around, if you're a student. Can you explain what you've learned is such an important thing to understand, because if you can't explain what you've learned, then people can feel over time that you don't know what you're doing or you're not prepared to do what you're doing. I know people who've been singing songs for many years. I mean years, like 10, 15 years, but don't know the meaning, don't know the cultural context. I mean, this starts to become, this is that bottle, right? You can sing the song, but you don't know what it means. And what happens when people ask you and you have to, you stutter, you invent, you end up being the same part of the situation of people who are don't learning and don't know what to teach or what to say. At the level of formatura, I really feel as a graduated student or as an advanced student, it really comes down to you. You guys have to chase after the information. I don't know anyone in Capoeira who doesn't have access to a Mestre or a Mestra or a graduated student who they could just ask a simple question. You can send email, you can ask questions. Everything's within your reach, not like before where you had to hunt down people to get information. Your Mestre should always be an open door, but you have to walk in, sit down, and ask questions. You have to communicate with your teacher. Ask them, why do you think the way you do? Why do you teach the capoeira the way you do? How can I be ready when I'm called by capoeira to do something? Nothing is worse that I've seen in over 30 years of capoeira, and I've never used it. People say, oh, I know, when I don't know something, I never said, but I've heard it 1,000 times. Oh, my mestre didn't teach me that. Come on. How old are you? Get to it. Capoeira is growing. There's a lot of information, a lot of communication. I don't know everything. What I don't know, I try to find out and I try to learn and I study. We're constantly studying. So don't worry. A good teacher will always be learning new things. And part of your growth in capoeira is to follow that path and learn. You can't know everything, but the challenge in learning everything is the best. It's what makes capoeira more attractive and more rich. Length of time in capoeira does not equal quality. And it doesn't equal the knowledge of capoeira. Look around you. Look at yourself in the mirror. Have you been doing capoeira 15, 10, 20 years? Can you answer most of the questions that I've put out here today? Or can you ask your teacher to ask you these questions? And can you give a satisfactory answer? Don't just think you know. Find out, do you know? This is a video just to keep you guys aware of your growth in capoeira. The bottle really, I think, does a good example of thinking how we perceive ourselves in capoeira. Mestre Sucuri, coming to you, trying to keep you aware, a little bit of experience, a little bit of wisdom. Mestre Vibes, YouTube. If you like what we're doing, subscribe. Check out what we're doing on Patreon because we're doing a lot of great stuff. Support us. Lots of love, peace, ashe, capoeira.